that we're hoping you all get to gain with us this year, and know that we're always here to support you as a trusted advisor and mentor, and try to help you build your data skills so you can become a Tableau ninja, just like me, a data badass, right? So we're so glad you're here. Chris Cox and I will be hosting this event today. And I know that we did get one question at least in advance. We have a great group of people joining us from all around. We've got several people from Colorado, Chris, that have joined, a couple from Arvada, one from Highlands Ranch. We've got a few people we have St. Louis, Missouri in the house as well. And we've got Minnesota here too. So, and a lot of different industries, from healthcare to consulting with fire and police departments to insurance, industrial sensor and manufacturing companies. So it's a good group of folks with us today, Chris, with that. So let me go ahead and pull up the question that we had from Eric today. And I do have it, Chris, in our question Slack channel as well. But Eric, would you mind just coming off mute and describing the issue that you wanted us to try to address today? Since you are here with us, it'd probably be better than me reading the question off since you're here live. So.
Yeah, no problem. Good afternoon, everybody. So I am one member of a marketing team for an industrial manufacturing company, and my responsibility really revolves around kind of being the expert in our customer database, which is Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So I've worked in that for about 10 years, probably. I've been in our marketing team close to 4 years. And actually, about the time I joined the marketing team, we didn't really rely much on analytics. There have been a lot of changes in the teams. Actually, shortly after I joined, there's some turnover, some management changes. And it used to be more traditional marketing. I want to say, magazine advertising, press releases, more PR related, and it's really focused on KPIs and metrics now. We really want to prove that what we're working on is working for us and that we're getting results. So we focus a lot on leads, opportunities. We have a marketing automation manager, so we, of course, send out quite a few emails, and we really want to track what's happening with those emails. So that's just a little bit of background of the information that I'm looking at. And what I mentioned to Heather earlier is that, of course, we all know that space is of a premium when we're looking at dashboards. And my team, let's say I'm just looking at a basic bar chart. It's a view of 2020 data. Maybe it includes leads per month. I'm showing the team right now, how many leads are for that specific month. But they'd like to see the total leads for that entire view. So I know that in the title, we can play around and add different fields and show something like the sum of leads across the entire year in that title. And I have been able to get that working when I'm connected just to an Excel file, which is pretty basic, nothing really interesting going on there. But when I'm connected to my CRM database, I do have more problems because I have so many filters and calculations created and groupings to come up with the result that I need, that I continue to see a range in that field rather than just the actual total for the year. It'll show me the range of low to high. And I've played around with a few different calculations to try to fix that, but I'm not great with syntax. I don't have any SQL or coding background at all. That's not really my background. So I think that's one of my issues. I don't know that we need to dig into that so much, but I just would like to hear what suggestions you have for creating totals or visualizing totals for a view. And even better would be if they could be dynamic. So, for example, if I changed a filter on that view, if I only wanted to look at Q1 instead of all of 2020, so that total would dynamically change to show me just Q1.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is, I'll show you this one really quick, because this does, so I think the first thing I would tell you is to actually, that you get more out of building sheets that look like titles versus actually using titles. So if you're trying to make a title worksheet work, then that's going to be part of your problem, because
I know what you mean.
Whole,
yep.
So with that, there's like a lot of limitations. So, but it's easy. Like, so this one, so pretty much on all of ours, we just write text for our titles.
Sure.
So it does a lot of stuff for you, just because you can get this aligned exactly. If you need to cheat some space, you can, because you can't, because with the title bars on any worksheets, you're going to be stuck at that size. Doesn't matter
Right.
if you make the font smaller or whatever, it's just not going to work. And then if you need it to wrap or something else, you can't do it. So pretty much, I'd say 99% of the time, we actually don't use titles. So we would just
Okay.
do something else. That's kind of the short of it. And then like this one here, I
Right.
mean, no, it's exactly the thing, but this is like your top number, right? And if I looked at a certain quarter, then then like that's gonna actually adjust, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing as, so I would just say, just kind of think about it as a fake title and not a real title.
And then the other thing, Chris, I think what he really is trying to find, I think these are really some KPIs that he's looking at. So I thought it might make sense to show how we create KPIs by creating a separate sheet. And then that gives you a lot more flexibility. The titles, you're kind of, they do kind of restrict you to which fields you can use. And then we could use some dashboard actions from your other things to update those
We can,
KPIs.
well, we've been given permission to use that Rocky Mountain Institute.
We have, yep. We
Let's
have
use
permission.
that one's
Yep.
that one's current, and that's something that we're working on right now. And that's got a lot of the stuff that you're talking about in it.
Yeah, I thought about that. So this is a client, just as Chris is getting it open. Rocky Mountain Institute is a nonprofit that's working to reduce carbon emissions globally throughout the world. And so we're working with them on a project that's going to be a public facing portal. This is a draft. It's still a work in progress. But this is on Tableau Public right now. And they are, doing some piloting of it. The final version of this will be out for the world by the end of February, I believe, is the goal. But I thought this might be an interesting one when we're talking about KPIs and how those are built. I thought this could really be a good example. So if we're looking at this area, this is one place where, we're putting these numbers that really matter at the top. So that could be your leads or whatever that might be that you're looking at. So this is where Chris is going to walk us through that a bit more.
So that and also these titles.
Yeah.
So this one.
Oh yeah, those dynamic titles. Yeah.
Yes, that's also something else. And this is I'm going to show you a different one first, because I'm going to come back to did it a couple different ways, and I'll show you. So one, we kind of cheated. Like, so this one here, if you look at this guy, so this one, if I switch to a capacity, then that's going to change out, right? Well, that one is actually simple, because this one here is not a worksheet. It's just kind of this like a text box. Actually, that one is a worksheet too. So yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We're actually making this a worksheet, and then I would have some extra stuff in here that will be happening. Actually, this is kind of generating my text. So I would create a field that says, okay, well, tell me what to do. So capacity generation text. So you'll see I have several of these that I've already created. So capacity generation text. So this one would say, okay, if this whole parameter is a capacity, then I want it to say this. If else I want it to say that, right? So that would kind of get you past those things. It's just a physical title. But then the same thing, if you wanted to have these numbers show up in there, you could also do the same thing. So if I wanted to have that number, I could just add it as another field that works the same way, and then just add it into this area. So add it into like a different text metric. We did that same thing with actually, if you look at it, we'll go back to this one. So this little this sheet, make sure I'm right. Yeah. So this one here, we kind of have these two different metrics. So you have one is a text metric, the same one we just looked at, the assets or earnings. And then I have a second one here that's going to color this red. So all you do is you have two fields, and this one here I have to set to choose as those asterisks. So in this one, so like for example, if we're on earnings, that's going to be started out because there's some data challenges. But if I'm on assets, that one doesn't actually show up. So you can, so that gives me a lot more things to be flexible on. And how that works is it's actually still there. So it's still here. It's just, it doesn't matter that it's colored red, because how I have it set up um, is I just say, if it's actually earning, show it. If not, if else, don't. Right. So you can do those same things with all of your different metrics.
So let's take a step back as well. So Eric, I don't know, do you need these titles to be changing with a parameter like we're showing at the top, or do you just need it to dynamically swap out? Or are you thinking the
Yeah, good
numbers
question.
might be a better way to show what you're looking for? Because we can show the KPI
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so I don't even need the titles to change, and the reason for that is, and I'm a pretty basic user, let me put it that way. So right now, instead of having the entire view, like you've got an entire screen essentially showing these views, I just have 4 graphs on my dashboard right now. So if I were to change a filter on that dashboard, I wouldn't need to change the titles of those graphs. I would just be changing these numbers at the top, essentially, that you were just showing me. So I guess what my next question is, I think I heard the term dashboard actions. Is that how you're tying the sheets together? So when you change one of these filters at the top, it's managing multiple worksheets. I guess I'm not too versed on how that works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a couple things on that. My thing's not going fast here, but like, so for here, I just kind of click this one company, and then these actually all changed. So this is kind of the same thing as, it sounds like that you're actually using filters, which is like
right.
one of these drop downs. So
right.
the problem with filters is that is actually how they work is that Tableau has to pre-calculate for every option in your actually filter prior to it, so it's actually load. So if you have a lot of filters,
okay,
it's going to be slower and slower. So actions are way faster. So actions are, and I'll kind of show you on this one, but then I can build one from scratch to show you the difference. Is you go to dashboard actions, and then you're going to create, if you want to create a new one, you say add action filter. And so all it's doing is saying, from these sheets, I want to run on select, and I want to target these sheets, and I want to pass in all fields. Sometimes there's just different things you have to do. Sometimes you have to choose a certain field, or you may want to exclude values or stuff like that. Typically, it's actually rare that we use hover. It would have to be a very specific case for hover to be used. It's almost always select. The menu comes in really handy if you're going to use an action to pass in a value, but then kind of go to a different dashboard. So very often we will jump to a different dashboard from some like menu action, maybe to do some sort of like a drill down or whatever. But that's how those work, and all it's really doing. Here, I'll just show you the underpinning. So if I take all these actions here, I'm just going to clear out this last one, these actions. So right now there's no actions on this sheet, right? It's just giving me the full thing. So if I pass in one company and I click it, we're going to see the 181 change to whatever the number is. So it changes to this. So what that has done is, on the fly, that has written this action for me. So it's written action parent company equals Southern Co. So that's the same thing.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the same thing that would happen if I did this. Now the reason why we have the filters here as well is because they wanted these to be global. So if I chose none and just chose Southern Co, then this is going to be the same number. So it's going to do the same thing. It's just now it's going to be something that, something that I couldn't actually click. I would have to go, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I am having some major Tableau server lead times trying to load these dashboards, and I'm sure those filters are a big component of that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, so yeah, if you're having performance problems, that's actually it, probably. I mean, there's,
Okay.
so yes, so typically with any performance issues, it's a design flaw. So there's
Right.
different ways to build sheets. One actually thing to know is that sometimes it's better to put more dimensions on a sheet and like have those hidden. And the reason why is because the actually number of unique queries that have to be run to takes more time. So if technically, if I am clicking on this sheet and it's going to run some query, so if it's passing the same technical values that if I clicked on this sheet and it did, then those go under the same query as far as the whole caching is concerned. So that kind of helps you speed up too. So the least number of queries you can have is actually better.
So Chris, I'm going to stop sharing your screen for a second. And I just want to, I'm going to bring over just a little summary on dashboard actions as well. That might be helpful. Let me grab that again.
And can I just clarify one point that I think I heard Chris say is that by reducing the number of dimensions, the ones that I'm not actually using will help calculations speed up as well? By hiding dimensions I'm not using?
Yeah, totally. Let me share one more time.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So probably the last thing we do when we get things finished is I'm going to come in, I'm going to do an extract data again, and then, well, it's going to, no, this one's not work, but here, let me do it on a different one, just so I'm not messing the thing up. It's like we've been sharing it. So I started one for our session today, but kind of the last thing I would do is, man, what is going on with my, I don't know what's happening here. Up a different version. Let me close. Connect to data, Superstore. Okay. Huh. Somehow I'm
Try
gonna
the sample Superstore, Chris. That might help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a training data set that sometimes gives me trouble when I connect to.
Yeah. So something you definitely want to do. So are you so with your data set, are you using live connections or using extracts?
It is an extract. It's from a database. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So like, for example, if I was using sales and profit and, this is running way crazy slow. So I'm using sales, I'm using profit, and I'm using, let's say, sub category. So if I was going to create an extract of this, then clicking this hide unused fields is actually huge.
Yeah.
So that's going to get me down to only the things that I'm using, and so that's going to make it smaller and faster, for sure.
Great. Yeah, I have dozens of fields that I'm not using, so that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Definitely want to do that. And this also helps too, and this is something we need to do, Heather, on the one we're working on, because if there's any calculations that you've written that are technically not being used, it's a great way to go through and kind of just get things like neat.
Yeah.
Clean. Yeah.
For sure. All right. I will share. I just thought you might also, since we went down the path of dashboard actions, just wanted to just give a little rundown for people on dashboard actions in your dashboard. I know that's not the clearest. I probably should have just pulled it out. But these are the different options for all the dashboard actions. And this is something that you can screenshot if you'd like and, have with you, but just know that, filtering actions are what we use most often, but you do have the option to have a highlight as you're working through, that you just hover over things and it will show how those charts have changed, or you can do a highlight on select too. You never want a filtering action to run on hover, because when people are moving over the dashboard, all of a sudden it's filtering down things and you don't want that to happen. URL actions are another option, and those are usually run on menu, and a little blue link will show up very much like your people are used to seeing when they click on a hyperlink. You do have options to go to other sheets within your dashboards. You can also do sets and where it will change the set values using select on that, or you can even do parameters that you're changing on select or hover too. So just thought I'd give a little background on just dashboard actions. One of the first things we do as consultants is we actually come in and get rid of as many of the filters that we can for you and build those into charts, because the filter is typically going to be alphabetical, where if we're looking at items that can be ranked, have it be sorted on a bar chart, you get a whole lot more information with that. So we always say real estate's expensive on a dashboard. So we want to use that real estate as best we can. And that will give you more information than just a radial filter or a multi-select filter will do. And because you're able to then use it as a dashboard action, that's going to help as well with your performance. So I think that's all just helpful things to keep in mind. I'm not seeing other questions that have come in. And if that's the case, Chris, why don't we show how you would build the KPIs? To do that just slowly for people to see. And if you need us, the other thing Chris was showing was a parameter. So I don't know if people have other things. So if you do have questions, I'm keeping an eye on the Slack channel for the questions form and also in the chat. Let's see. Oh, here's another one question, Chris, too. Is it possible to sort a table on a measure value to get top X? So that is from Octavio as well. So
Do you want to do that? You have a lesson on that, on the top X. You want to do that?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and build out the KPI, and then I'll pull that information up and I'll put the question in chat for everybody so you know.
Yeah, because I know you have a top X good example. And I'll work on the KPI.
Yeah. So do you want to walk through the KPI first, Chris, or do you want me to pull up?
No, you already got yours built. I'm gonna build it as we go.
Okay,
And
great. Absolutely. Let me grab that. So when we're talking about top N values, let me just get to one that will be
you need to share.
Yeah, I will. I'm trying to pull it up first. Here we go. Sorry, it's taking me. So I'll show a couple of these for you guys too. So there's a couple ways that we can think about, Octavio, about top N items. And so let me just get this pulled up. One is going to be using a context filter. The other one is going to be if you have a couple different areas that you're wanting to rank from. So I'll kind of show both of those options to you. So let me share my screen. So one of the first ones that often we like to show you is, let's say that the problem that you're trying to solve is, and let me edit this title. I'll open, before I do that, let me open up my zooming tool. So the question that we're really trying to answer here, just for clarity, is what are my top 10 products in each category? And so we want to look at this. And this is a great trick as well when you're designing. is to be able to put the question in the title so your end users already know what they're supposed to be looking at. Probably don't need 2 question marks when you do that. But what we want to look at is what are our top 10 products in each category. And you're going to notice in order to do a top 10, I have 2 things that are happening here right now. I have category that's on here and it's gray. We'll talk about what that means. And then we also have a product name that has a sorting icon on it. And it's from here that if I go to edit this filter, I want my top 10 products. What you can do is drag whatever field that you want to be your top 10. Then you go to top and you say, go ahead and say, I want the top 10 by sales, by sum of sales, let's say, or whatever that might be. You can also do a parameter where you give your end users the ability to change out that value. That's also another option that you have. So once you have that, I'm going to remove this. This is on context right now, and I'll show you what happens. Well, actually, I won't remove that yet. I'll just show you what we've got here and why it's working. So right now, what we have, and I'll have this fit the entire view. We right now are getting the top 10 overall when we look at this. So when I look over here at my filter, so what I've done is just shown that filter. So here's my category for filter. So if I look at furniture, here's my top 10 for furniture. If I look at office supplies, my top 10 for office supplies, and technology, my top 10. But watch what happens if I don't put this on context. This is called a context filter. And essentially what that means is in the context of the question I'm trying to answer, I need you to bring me in first and then bring in the others. But by default, Tableau does not put things on context. So I'm going to remove it from context. You'll know it's not on context anymore because it's blue. But look what happens. Now I only have all, which is my top 10. I have furniture that has 3 items from that top 10 and technology that had 7 from the top 10. And my office supplies has completely disappeared. So why do you guys think that there's no office supplies in this? Does anyone have an idea? You can come off mute or put it in chat.
Didn't make the top 10.
Yeah, it's picking just the top 10 overall. It's not saying for each category that we wanted. So in order to do that, I have my category filter that's showing I have to say add to context. And when I do that, you'll know it's on the context because it turns gray. That means bring in all my categories first and then my top 10. And so now you have these top 10s that are coming. So let me make sure, Tia, is it possible to sort a table on a measure value to get a top X? Yes. So I think we've got the sorting that's showing there. The other thing that I want to show, so this is always when I have different products that are in my furniture category than I do in my office supplies. So let me stop here and make sure anyone doesn't have a question. What I'm going to show you next.
I have a question.
Yeah, great. Go ahead. And this is Christy.
This is Christy. So I have a question. So I see how you're using the top 10 in the filter, and sometimes I do that. But sometimes I know that you can use the set to do the top 10, and then you can pick, like, do you want the top 10 by sales? Do you want the top 10 by numbers of orders placed? So is there an advantage or different scenarios when you would want to use sets to display the top 10 per se versus the right there in the filter using the top tab?
Oh, it's a good question. Chris, I don't know if you have thoughts on it as well. Give kind of my first pieces of it. I think it depends on the question that you're answering. And if you want to be swapping out measures that you want the top 10 for sales and the top 10 for something else, then what you might want to do is use a parameter that's going to swap out those measures and do the top 10. But sets, what a set is going to do is also define the different parameters of that you're looking for too. So I can show some options with sets as well. But Chris, do you have thoughts on the sort versus the set?
I don't. I was trying to think of a different way to do it.
Yeah, let me build out so when you're doing a set, typically your sets are often going to be I typically create them dynamically. So let's say that I'm looking at all of my customers. Oops, I didn't want that on shape. Sorry, get that on detail. And we'll take, say, profit here. So let's say that I'm looking at all of the customers where we're not profitable. What I can do is I can highlight this in the view and create a set. from there and go to set, create set. And we'll say, if we would know that these are employees and not customers, we would say, you know, not meeting potential, let's say. And if we could pretend that these are our employees and we're looking at them. So when I look at that, these, Chris would call these guys losers, by the way. This would then create the set. I call them not meeting potential, right, Chris? That's our inside joke. So we could put AKA losers here, you know, as well. You could say that if we're thinking employees, right? Or if their customers are losing money. So the difference with a set, in this case, this set I'm doing from the view, you'll notice I have names of people that are in here. If I would do this, you know, with the filter, I'm going to get the top 10 based on that sales. With this, though, this is not going to be dynamic. With this set, it's going to be from the view. So sometimes you want to create sets that are from your view, you're looking at it and you want to dive deeper into that. And that allows you to do some more work. But I could also go to my customer name and create a set that would be dynamic, that as things change, these people would move their way up in that set. So the other way you can do it is go to the data pane and create a set. And from here, this is where you can have some conditions in top. So it's similar to what we're doing with the filters. And this would be more dynamic. So depending on how you create your sets, if you're creating it from the view, that's going to be a snapshot in time of that. And that advantage would be that you're watching those customers or those clients or those employees and see how they're moving over time. But if you do it from here as a condition, it's going to be similar to what you're doing in the filter with it. And this will be more dynamic with it. But the advantage of that, this is just saying if people are in the set or out of the set. When you do it this way, it's actually sorting it based on those conditions with it. And I think you have a little bit more ability to be able to do that, where oftentimes I use sets to just pull them onto color and see who's in it and who's out of it. But if I'm ranking, I tend to use these sets as well. The other option I wanted to show is this is a time that a context filter that I just showed is what would work. Welcome. We have some more people joining us today. We're glad you're here. But sometimes when in that last example for the context filter, these were different products and technology than I had in office supplies. So those are different as well. They're all different products. So I would never have a furniture, I'd never have a leather chair that would show up in technology. So there are times too that you might want to be doing some sorting of your top N. And this is where you're going to be doing a rank. And what I have here is I'm looking at this by region and then getting the top 10 products for each of those regions. And so this is different because what's happening here, if I zoom in, you'll notice I have an Apple smartphone that's in Asia Pacific. It's also in EMEA. It's also in Latin America. And so I have the same products in a different region. So this is a little different question. So to do this, what you typically are going to do is you build this out with your market and your product name. And what you want to do is rank this. And so I bring this in now that there's nested sorts. If you're working in a later version of Tableau, the sorts will actually start to work for you. So let me just build this out for you. If I bring in sales, and I bring in my market and product name. And let's grab my product name. And I add all those members. And I do a sort. You'll notice that I've got a long sort that's happening here going all the way down. So I want to limit this to the top 10. So to do that, what I've done here is I've created a table calculation. So if I bring sales onto label, and I click on this, I don't want the sales numbers, I actually want the rank. So I'm going to change this to a rank. But you'll notice, even though the bars seem to be in order, I've got a 4 for my first one. If I start to scroll down further, you'll start to see other numbers that are down here. If I get into US and Canada and things, let me scroll up a little bit more. You'll see that I've got a bigger number here that's going to be a number 1. So here's in US and Canada and Latin America, everything is being ranked right now. So what's happening, if I just narrow this to the top 10 values, I just controlled, clicked, and dragged that table calculation of rank up, we're getting the top 10 overall. So what's happening is I needed to rank for each of these. So what I want to do is say, what are my, goodness, typing live is never fun, top 10 products this time in each region or market, I should say. These are markets. And so to do that, this is all about the scope and direction. So right now, my table calculation is going down the entire table of data and bringing in my top 10 values. So I'm going to remove this. What I really want this to do is do this pane down. I want it to go for each market and edit that calculation. So I'll show you, you can go to compute using and change it, but I want to show you what it's doing. If I go to pane down, right now, this is going down the entire table. Let me actually bring that back up so it's narrowed down to just 10 here, and you can see. If I edit this calculation, right now it's doing it down the entire table. What I want it to do is do it down each of these panes separately. So I'll do pane down here. I'll remove this. And now when I control click drag, I'm bringing that whole bag of whatever I've done to it. It's going to bring this pane down direction for scope and direction. And I'll again narrow it to 10 and click OK. So now I've got this, it's now ranking my top 10 for each market by it. And the beauty of this one is I can show this filter, and this will allow my end users to be able to change that out if they want to, without even having to build a parameter. You can do this with rank. We could do one with a parameter too. So if people want to see the top 15, they could do that as well. And then if you wanted to change it out from sales to account distinct of something or profit, this is where you could layer in a parameter, and then you would have the parameter that you could use to swap out the values. Hopefully that makes sense. So I will stop sharing. Octavia, let me know if that does not answer your question, if I went way too deep on top 10s. Okay, great. So Chris, I know when we're looking at time, we have 15 minutes. The only other question I'm seeing, we'll build out, show how to build out those KPIs. And then the other question is, can I zoom in the map that has a shapefile attached when the map is selected? Can I zoom in on the map from Clay? So we'll take a look at that map question next, but let's go ahead and talk KPIs, because I think that's been a theme of our day today. So.
So if I kind of took one of our standard our whole template dashboards that we have, and I made a couple things just to show you. So I think this will get you there. But I mean, so really, basically, these KPIs. Oh, this is a trick I do, because sometimes it's unless you want to deal with the actions where you go and select every sheet. And you say, okay, I don't want to filter from here. So an easy way to get around that, because like you'll notice in my actions, I just have one. I just have kind of the all to all. So technically, I could filter from this value, and it would just be weird. So to get around that, I just put this little blank box over top of it. So that just makes it so you can't actually hover on it or kind of click. But that's kind of a little trick that we use just to save some time. But anyway, so these fields. Because you don't want somebody doing that, it doesn't make sense. It's just a simple, like this will just kind of a sum of actually sales. So if you want it to give you the total of your data set, and then you want to have it pare down based on whatever you're filtering on. Like I think in your example, you were talking about, dates and stuff like that. So I did add in this chart. So like if I wanted just one year, then that's going to give me that sum. So that's my total sales for that year, my total cost, my total profit. And that's just really, really simple. There's no real calculations needed. It's just a matter of, it's just a plain, sum of profit, and then our action just passes in and tells us to only give us the rows that are applicable to that year. Does that help some on the KPI piece at all?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, and then this is something that we've kind of shown a lot of times. So dates are a thing that I had this love kind of hate relationship with. Most people are coming from like a different product, like a Power BI or kind of Excel. They'll default to wanting to have these date ranges and have a slider that you can adjust and stuff like that. That's great if you know exactly what you're looking for, but I mean, typically what we see is that, yeah, people will ask for sliders because they don't know how to ask for anything different. But like, for example, here, like, I think it's a typical option is I would want to look at like August. So August actually over time. So with building this heat map, I can select all 4 years of August. So now, so then my trend line tells me that my August, I how do you say that, is actually growing, right? So that's actually trending up versus I might look at a different month and say, okay, well, we're not doing quite as good, right? But it gives you a way to kind of select and really drive anything you want. And if someone says, hey, well, I just need a certain date range. So you can do that. You can select anything in the middle. But having these little heat maps for date parsing, I think is huge. And then this graph here in the bottom, I just made it. So so you have your, this one we broke out by these different types. So standard class, second class. So those are the lines below. And then I just made another axis that gives me the total. That way, if we want to know what that sums up to, it's 280. And then if you were filtered on one, it would just go like over top of it. So it's still there. I just have it as the one that has the details in front. And so the white one is just slightly behind, and it's a little bit actually bigger. So you kind of see it there, but just some tricks to kind of get kind of the most out of your view, so you can kind of, parse things out.
Chris, do you know the answer to Clay's question around being able to zoom with spatial files? I think that zooming feature should still be able to work, right?
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that it's not there. I don't know why it wouldn't. I know on maps you can turn that on and off. So I would just check your options to make sure that your pan and zoom is turned on. I think that's the first thing I would check. I don't know, Clay, if you could.
Actually, it's slightly different. So, I group our areas into those shape files, and each area is analyzed. Actually, using this map you've got right here would work. If I clicked on, say, that yellow piece, could I get Tableau to zoom in on just the yellow piece?
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Well, if you like, well, yeah.
I want the map to zoom.
Yeah. So you probably can't do it from clicking the map because the same way here, like, so for example, if I click standard, well, this one doesn't zoom, but that one does, right? So if you're using the map to zoom, then really your only way to do it is to, let me get off of this. So I think if you double click, it probably would do it. Why am I stuck on the, hang on. I think there's like a double click option, but it's not, I wouldn't recommend it. Let me get back, what happened here? There we go. So I think, like, so for example, this one, if I double click that, then that's going to zoom it in. But then the problem is that when I actually clear, then that doesn't clear. So I think I'd have to do something separate. So I have to click something else to get it to clear that action. So I should be able to double click on this, and that's going to zoom. But now, how do I get that back? So I think we probably should. Now I can't get back out of it. So now I'd have to have my pan and zoom to go and do that. Or if I'll double click this one.
Why don't you open it up, Chris, as a sheet instead of doing it in the dashboard? That might be.
Yeah, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm trying to cut off all of the controls so that because they get lost, they easily get lost on stuff. So rather than doing that, have the map itself like a set. And then if they want to look at a specific area in more detail, it would zoom into that area and then zoom back out. But the exact same thing happens if you double tap it. It zooms in. You can.
What it's actually doing is this. It's actually setting this little thing. So if you leave that, then they could actually check that box and it goes back. But I think that's going to be a training problem for you.
Can you do it with as a set, or is there a different way to do it, or an action or something?
Yeah, you could actually do it if you didn't use actually map. So if you used like the same example I had here. So if I have these two things have the same things in them, right? So if I click this one, that one's going to zoom in. So if you don't use, so if you say, okay, I'm going to let you select a bar chart, for the area you want, and that's going to zoom in on the map. And when you unselect the bar chart, it's going to zoom out. Then that'll work perfectly. But if you're trying to use the map for both sides, it's not going to do it.
So you could make the bar chart zoom in on the map, and then you okay, all right, okay, that makes good sense. That works.
Yeah. So here we can.
And then you can shut off the pan and zoom, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just do one really quick. So if I duplicate this guy, and I'll make this into a hopefully into a bar chart. I don't have the regions. Let's do region, and gotta have some metric. All right, so there's our regions. So if I throw this on here, just we'll put it up here for now. So now if I click on east, then that's going to zoom into the east, right? And if I click out, it's going to zoom back out. But it sounds like what you're trying to do, you're trying to get it to happen all in one spot.
No, I can make that. I've got bar charts associated with it. I could do it that way. That'll work. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, and we have one more question that came in. So let me share my screen. And I think, let me make sure too, one more question from side, could you? That, okay, yeah, so Sunil is asking a question about, first of all, so let me pull up the one that I was working on before with the nested sort. One of the questions was, what would happen if you add another dimension to this? So let's bring in, we've got market, maybe if I bring in region into this as well. Now you'll have that, and let me make it to 5. So I'm just bringing in another dimension to the view. And as long as I have that scope and direction is correct, even though I'm now creating yet another pane, it is going to give me that same scope and direction is locked in. So it will be pane down for each of these, and that rank should work. So I think that was one of the questions was, well, what if I bring in another dimension? How might that impact the ranking? The key thing with table calculations is that you have to understand the scope that you're doing, which is table, pane, or cell, and the direction that you're using with it. If it's across, if it's down, across then down can be with some of the different table calcs that are there. But this should not impact that as long as that pane down is set properly. But I think there was also an additional question kind of around, well, what if I want to use something like my top 25 cities for sales, and I want the products to change based on that. So I could do something like I could go to New York City, and this will show me the top 10 products for New York City. So the interesting thing is this is kind of a fun place for us to end our call today, is that we talked about dashboard actions, and we've talked about context filters, and we've talked about top 10 things, top N, top 25, top 10. The way that you do this is building this out the same way we did before with that top 10 in our product filter that we said, okay, we want this to be the top 10 by sales. But what we're doing here, you'll notice what's on context for this one. These are my dashboard actions. So what I've got here is I have an action for my city, country, state, and an action on market. And you add these to context. So what you're doing is you build this out, you create your dashboard actions that say that all of my sheets filter to all of my sheets, but then you say filter map to the top 10 products. And you're saying, when I'm on the top 25 cities for sales, I want it to bring my top 10 products there and show all those values. So this is all on select. But what I have to do is first create that. Then I have to go back to this sheet and add this to context. And when I do that, that's going to allow that top 10 to work. So just kind of a cool way to be able to do that. And this is actually doing the top 10, my top 25 from the market. So I start with my markets. I then say I need the top 25 for that. And then I add that into the field as well. So I can say, let's only look at Asia Pacific, or let's only look at EMEA. And this is going to bring in the top 25. So you first create the actions, go back to the worksheets, and then add them to context as well. So thought that was kind of a cool way to wrap everything up for everybody. Yeah, so I think, does that answer your questions, Sunil? I hope that.
Hi, Hector. Thanks
Hi.
for answering your questions. Actually, my question is a little bit different here.
Okay.
Let's say we have multiple filters on the top. So each filter which it user select, they want to see the top 10.
Mm,
Like say, if your country is the like USA, under USA, we need to see the top 10. Uh,
got you.
uh, Top 10 sales representatives amount like that.
Yeah.
So
So,
let's say if the user select the state level, so they
mhm.
want to see top 10 sales representative sales like that.
So what I would recommend is to not use your filters as much. What happens is you're going to have a lot of drop down values for filters, and this is going to be faster and smoother and more visual. So I think this would probably be a better option to be able to do that than using the filters that they come in here and get to US. They pick the state. Let's say right now I know I have it on city. They can pick that, and this will edit that for them. But Chris, I don't know your thoughts. I know when you start using multiple filters with the top N, it can kind of, it's kind of hard to do that without putting it on context and with dashboard actions. So.
Yeah, the other thing is you get caught into some pieces of like order, right? So is it top 10 of the US first and then product and then like, because you start having to actually combine all those things together.
Yeah.
And I think that those top filters are going to matter, which are going into context and which order is going first.
Yeah.
So the other thing I would say is, I know people ask for top 10, but keep in mind is that that's not going to speed up anything. I mean, it's going to help a little bit by showing less marks, but for Tableau to calculate which ones are the top 10, it has to still go through every single row, right? So a lot of times I don't even worry about doing a calculation for top 10. I just make that box smaller and have it scroll.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to get to the bottom or whatever else, you can. That's just another thing.
Yeah, it's tricky when it's filters, right? Because it's going to be, you can't quite set the user experience with it, and it's hard to get those ranks to keep. So that might be my suggestions to Neo, is to try this dashboard action idea and see. I know our end users are used to a lot of drop down filters, but if you have an example that you would want us to work through with you too, I'll just show you all our website here to make sure. Let me just bring out how you can get in
Uh,
contact with us, and we can work through that a little bit more. But
yeah, actually, that is my real-time scenario.
okay.
So I've used that multiple filters that we don't have any option to show the values on the dashboard. So there is a drop-down list. So around 10 filters I have used that. So each filter, if the user select, they want to see the top 10 values like that. So what I have done is I have used the context filters. So I don't have any other option to do that. But if I use the context filter, the performance will decreasing. So I want to make sure the performance will increase the dashboard. So
Yeah.
for
And
that, thinking any other way to do this kind of thing.
yeah, that's where we're saying filters. I know you have the drop down for people to select with it. Filters tend to be the things that impact performance, not just the context filter with it. And so the more we can use dashboard actions, the better the performance will be. But we are, one of the things that we're doing, I know we're at time now for everybody, but one of the things we do each month is we do give away a session with Chris to try to help with it. So we do a drawing at the end, and so Neil, maybe you'll get that. If not, there is time to, if you go to our website, boulderinsight.com, I'll put that in the chat. There is a way to schedule some time with Chris. We can, if it's just 15 minutes to think through with it, we could do that. But then you can schedule a paid session with Chris for 30 minutes, and we can usually help you get to that answer. Sometimes we just need to be working with your data to be able to see that and get there. The other thing that you all can do as well is anytime you have questions throughout the month, if you go to the boulderinsight.com questions, This gets you to the form that you can fill out for us. And we will, it goes into a Slack channel that our team monitors. And we can try to answer questions that way as well. But we'll try to, think this through a little bit more. Let me just put the boulderinsight.com website there. And this is the questions one I'm putting into the chat for you all with questions too. And we are going to be doing a giveaway this month of one more thing. So I'll show you one other website we have. And we also are going to be giving away, this is our Tableau template. So if you are looking for different layouts for you, we have some that are in stock that you can purchase that have 12 different layouts that give you those background images and layout containers for you to put your data into, your own data. These are always great, but we also now have a merch section. And this is where we've got the cool data Tableau Ninja shirts and stickers and all those great things. So you will be, one of you will win a shirt. We'll be sending out a code to somebody for that, but you're all welcome to come purchase these as well too. So, but Sunil, let's keep noodling on this if you have an example as well. But the what I would really recommend, it gets tricky when you're using multiple filters and to get that top 10 to work for people. I really am a bigger fan of dashboard actions and putting them on context and having people choose from the charts because they're going to be able to just get some more information from that as well. So. All right.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have so many of you join. Know that we will be doing this. It's usually the first Friday of every month. This January was a little different because of the holidays, but it's the same. It's the same Zoom meeting each month. And if you're on our mailing list, you should be receiving those invites. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're here for you to try to help you in any way we can. So please join us again and reach out using that form or just email me directly. I know some companies can't use Google Forms, so I am going to work with the team to have an alternative for that too. But just an email with a question is all that we need. So I hope you all are having a happy new year, that this is going to be a new year focused on gaining new skills in the new year, and know that we should be your trusted partner and advisor through each of those steps. And we'll be happy to be here to support you throughout that. So happy new year, everyone. We'll see you in just a couple weeks. So we're only a few weeks out. We'll see you in that first Friday of February. So take care, everybody.